Let's talk about something huge, something that affects pretty much everything we do, the global economy. I mean, it decides what we buy, how much we earn, even the kind of world we live in. But how does this unbelievably complex system actually work? Just think about the phone in your pocket for a second. The parts probably came from a dozen different countries, it was put together in another, then shipped halfway across the world just to get to you. It's the same story for your coffee, your clothes, pretty much everything. So, how does this incredible global dance even happen? Well, it all boils down to one powerful and sometimes controversial word: globalization. This one concept is the engine behind our modern world, shaping everything from the products on our shelves to the jobs available in our towns. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dive into the global marketplace itself, this whole idea of open doors versus high walls. Then we'll meet the giants who roam this marketplace. After that, we'll ask if these giants are friends or foes to the countries they operate in. And finally, we'll get into the tricky but super important currency game. And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, this fundamental tension. Is globalization this amazing opportunity for everyone, or does it hide some pretty serious dangers? It really is a story of open doors versus high walls. So, what is globalization really? At its core, it's all about tearing down barriers. The big idea is that goods, money, and even people should be able to move across borders as freely as possible, creating one giant integrated marketplace for the entire world. And you can see the trade-off right away, can't you? On one hand, it's fantastic for big companies that want to sell to more people. And it's great for us as consumers. We get way more choices and usually lower prices. But on the other hand, all those cheaper foreign goods can create brutal competition for local businesses, sometimes even putting them out of business completely and leading to job losses at home. So, what happens when a government looks at those shuttered factories and lost jobs and just says, you know what? This isn't worth it. The downside is just too great. We need to protect our own people. Well, that's when they turn to something called protectionism, and it's the total opposite of globalization. Instead of opening doors, it's about building walls to shield your home team from all that foreign competition.
And they've got two main tools in their toolbox for building these walls. First up, you have tariffs. That's just a fancy word for a tax on imported goods, making them more expensive for you to buy. The second tool is quotas. These are even more direct. It's a hard limit. The government just says, okay, you can only import, say, 10,000 cars this year, and that's it, no more.
Now, all this global movement of stuff doesn't just happen. It's driven by the real main characters on this world stage, the massive companies that don't just work in one country, but are spread out all over the planet. Yep, we're talking about multinational corporations, or MNCs for short. You know their names, the big tech companies, the car makers, the fast food chains. They usually have a main headquarters back in their home country, but they're running a whole global empire of factories, shops, and offices. So why do they do it? Why go global? Well, there are a ton of reasons. It might be to find cheap labor or get their hands on raw materials like oil. Sometimes it's about getting closer to their customers. Or, get this, sometimes they build a factory inside a country just to hop over those trade walls, those tariffs and quotas we just talked about. At the end of the day, it's all about getting bigger and staying one step ahead of the competition. Okay, but this raises a huge question. When one of these corporate titans decides to set up shop in a new country, is that a good thing for the people who live there, or is it a curse? And as you can probably guess, the answer is, well, it's not simple at all. Is this giant new company a friend bringing jobs and money, or is it a foe, there to take what it can and leave? All right, let's start with the good news. On the plus side, an MNC can be like a shot of adrenaline for a local economy. They create jobs, bring in brand new technology and skills, and they boost the country's overall economic output. Plus, we get more stuff to choose from, and the government gets more tax money, which can be a huge win. But, and this is a big but, there's a whole other side to this coin. A lot of the time, the jobs they create are low-skilled, while the top jobs go to people from the home country. Local companies often just can't compete and go bust. There's also the risk that the MNC will ship all its profits back home instead of reinvesting them. And sometimes they can use up a country's precious natural resources and then just leave. Okay, so there is one last, absolutely crucial piece of this whole global puzzle. Because it's not just about moving products around the world, it's about moving the money to pay for them. And to understand that, we have to talk about exchange rates. Think of it this way. If you want to go shopping in Europe, you can't use your dollars. You have to buy their money first. You have to buy euros. The exchange rate is simply the price tag. It tells you exactly how much of your money it costs to buy their money. So for example, if you see that 1 euro equals $1.23, it means just that. To get your hands on a single euro, you have to hand over exactly $1.23 of your own cash. Simple as that. But here's the catch. These prices are changing all the time, every single day. When a currency appreciates, its value goes up. It gets stronger. When it depreciates, its value goes down. It gets weaker. And here is why this matters so much. These constant changes create clear winners and losers. If your currency gets stronger, if it appreciates, that's fantastic if you're an importer because all the foreign stuff you want to buy just got cheaper. But it's terrible for your country's exporters because your products just became more expensive for everyone else to buy. And a weak, depreciated currency? Well, that's the exact opposite. Which brings us right back to the beginning. Globalization is this double-edged sword. It offers incredible opportunity, but also huge risks. Multinationals can build up an economy, or they can hollow it out. And the value of your money can make or break your industries on the world stage. So let me ask you, if you were in charge, what would you do? Would you open the doors and embrace the chaos, or would you build walls to protect what you have? That right there is the central question of our global economy.